Mandalorian history and evolution is one of the most interesting aspects of Star Wars lore, and their continual pitfalls, challenges, and redemptions make the Mandalorians one of the most resilient creeds in the galaxy. For hundreds of years, they have weathered and survived some incredibly difficult challenges, including the nigh extinction of their race as a whole. One of the most fascinating aspects of this history is how different branches of Mandalorians' customs have spawned, deviating from previous tradition and growing to form their own identities and creeds. This is what allows Mandalorians to be so different from one another, following different practices, all while honoring the title of Mandalore in their own specific way. The most recent chapter of The Mandalorian begins to explore not just the differences in belief systems of the Mandalorians, but the bridging of different systems for one common goal, and one character was even allowed to partake in an action previously viewed as worthy of exile. So today, Acolytes of the Force, welcome back to our archives as we discuss the future of Mandalore and why the fate of the Mandalorian people has been placed into the hands of Bo-Katan. Spoilers lie ahead for Episode 5 of Season 3 of The Mandalorian, Chapter 21. Specifically, we will be discussing why Bo-Katan Kryze was not just allowed, but outright encouraged by the Armorer to remove her helmet before the clan. The Armorer has been shown to be one of the most conservative and devoted members of this particular subsect of Mandalorian culture, and was willing to outright exile Din Djarin from her creed despite him quite literally being the wielder of the Darksaber. She sent him to bathe in the living waters of Mandalore in order to redeem himself for his transgressions, and until now, these beliefs seem to have been firmly rooted and immovable. Now though, she has encouraged Bo-Katan to deviate from the way for the good of Mandalore. For years, Mandalore has been a paragon of warrior culture and has been highly respected as one of the most powerful factions in the galaxy, but despite their combat prowess and proficiency in battle, they have always had one glaring weakness. This pitfall is their inability to operate as a cohesive unit, and while teams of Mandalorians make for some of the most dangerous death squads in the galaxy, Mandalore as a whole has always been divided, at least in recent memory. Plagued by infighting and civil conflict, Mandalore has always borne and burnt of civil war, and their unity has been one of the most difficult ideals to maintain as a people. During the Imperial reign, they were allowed to survive, but their division allowed for the downfall of their homeworld during the twilight of the Empire, and it seems as if the Armorer is finally learning this integral flaw. The Armorer states that sightings of the Mythosaur have often indicated a new age for the Mandalorian people, and the dawn of a new era for Mandalorian prosperity and culture. This belief is actually rooted in a tradition even older than the Darksaber, as the first mark of the Mandalorian leadership was the helm of the Mythosaur. Constructed by the bones of a Mythosaur, a helmet was passed down from leader to leader, Mandalore to Mandalore. However, once this helm was lost to time, the Darksaber was soon after recovered from the Jedi Temple, and quickly succeeded the helm as the new symbol of Mandalorian unification. And it is this unification that the Armorer is searching for. While the Mandalorian Darksaber has been called a symbol of unity, it has failed on several occasions. Bo-Katan herself elected to defy Mandalorian custom during the Clone Wars, when the Darksaber was won by an outsider, and the Darksaber, in this moment, divided Mandalore far more severely than it ever unified it. This is a trend that we actually see continuing, as Sabine uses it to topple House Saxon, and as stated previously, Din Djarin's exiled was enacted despite his ownership of the blade. Now though, the Armorer needs to adapt, and for the true unity of Mandalore to commence, she needs someone who has walked several ways. Bo-Katan Kryze is accepted by several different subsects of the Mandalorian culture, including the Armorer's own coven, which has been largely regarded as a cult of outsiders for decades. Now that she is able to walk with a foot in both worlds, she is able to unify remaining Mandalorians better than anyone else with the Armorer's ranks, and this makes her the perfect candidate to scout for the remainder of the galaxy in search for more Mandalorian aid. However, there is something to note here of great importance, seeing the Mythosaur did not automatically denote Bo-Katan Kryze as destined for rulership, nor did it designate her as the leader by default, but instead, it merely signified that a new age of Mandalore was on the horizon. Now it appears as if this new age is going to be a blending of previously existing cultures, all figuring out how to compromise with one another in order to rebuild a truly successful Mandalore. This will likely result in other members of the Creed being able to remove their helmets at their own discretion, and might actually set up the future of the most important current Mandalore. While Din Djarin, Bo-Katan, and Paz Vizsla are certainly integral in how this unit functions, functions. We are currently speaking of the foundling Grogu, whose importance spans centuries beyond even the most fearsome Mandalorian leaders. If this practice continues to evolve, then it would allow Grogu to grow up in a blended culture, taking elements of all of the Mandalorian teachings and forging them together into one unified Mandalore. This could allow Mandalorian Grogu to lead everyone, but it must be led by Bo-Katan's unification first. Once she is able to bring them together, Grogu will be able to rebuild Mandalore on the beliefs of his forefathers, spanning not just the lifetimes of Din Djarin, but the ancestors before him. Mandalorian division has been the most pervasive problem within their entire history, and only now are the Mandalorians in power taking action to remedy this injustice. And hopefully in doing so, they will be able to create one of the most powerful, and more importantly, one of the most stable eras in the history of the Creed. Bo-Katan has walked many ways, and therefore is able to remove her helmet without being exiled. Although it is important that Bo-Katan is now not denoted as the true leader of Mandalore, as the wielder of the Darksaber is. A new age has begun, and one that could be wrought with great success, or another Mandalorian civil war. Could the Mandalorians be forced to decide between the Mythosaur and the Darksaber for the fate of their people? As always, my friends and acolytes, thank you again so much for visiting our archives. May the Force be with you always, and have a great day.